Everything happens for a reason, the Stoic way of seeing. Have you ever sat in silence after something fell apart? A breakup, a rejection, a failed dream. You sit there, heart heavy, thoughts racing, and you ask the oldest question known to suffering. Why is this happening to me? But what if that's the wrong question? What if instead you ask, what is this here to teach me? Because that shift from victim to student is the beginning of every Stoic awakening. And it begins with one truth. Everything happens for a reason. Not because fate is cruel. Not because life is fair. But because reality is a better teacher than comfort will ever be. The Stoics didn't run from adversity. They leaned into it quietly, steadily, with the belief that every experience, no matter how painful, holds a lesson. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher mind, a emperor of Rome, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He wasn't writing poetry. He was writing survival strategy. Because the truth is this: the obstacle is not in your way. The obstacle is your way. And that idea that life itself is the curriculum will change everything. Pain is not the enemy. It's the invitation. Think about the last time you felt broken. You probably wanted to run, to distract, to numb. But what if you sat with it? What if you let it speak? What would it say? Maybe slow down. Maybe you're e-growing. Maybe this isn't the end, it's a redirection. The Stoics believed in asking deeper questions when life gets hard. Not how do I escape this, but how can this strengthen me? Not why me, but why not me? Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body." We don't grow when life is easy. We grow when it's hard and we keep going anyway. Accepting doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing clearly. There's a misconception about Stoicism. People think it means suppressing emotion, shutting down. But that's not Stoicism. That's denial. True Stoicism is feeling the storm but not letting it sweep you away. It's standing still while the winds rage, knowing they will pass. It's knowing you don't have to like what's happening to learn from it. Epictetus, born into slavery, lived a life most would crumble under. But his words? Calm, sharp, unbreakable. He said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Read that again. That's not resignation. That's freedom. It's the kind of freedom most never find, because they're still trying to control the wind instead of adjusting their sails. But the Stoic learns to sail. They use the wind even when it's harsh. Every hardship contains hidden raining. There's a story that helps explain this. Imagine a man walking in the park. The sky suddenly darkens and rain begins to fall hard and cold. He wasn't prepared. He is soaked, uncomfortable, frustrated. But instead of cursing the sky, he stops. He breathes. He watches each raindrop fall on his hands. He accepts it. And in that moment, he trains his mind to remain unshaken. Not because he enjoys being wet, but because he knows resistance to what's already happening only creates more suffering. That's the lesson. You don't need to love every storm, but you can learn not to hate them, because the rain will always fall. The only question is whether you let it drown you or clean you. Impermanence is your ally, not your enemy. Everything changes. Nothing lasts. That's not sad. That's liberating. If the pain is real, it will pass. If the joy is real, it must be cherished. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily. Everything is ephemeral: fame, memory, the body, even the soul. All is smoke drifting into the air. And yet, he ruled the Roman Empire with dignity. Why? Because he knew that accepting change wasn't giving up. It was waking up. It was living in flow with nature instead of fighting it. So next time life shakes you, pause. Don't rush to fix it. Don't distract yourself. Don't drown in questions. Just breathe. And ask, what is this here to teach me? That question holds more healing than 1,000 distractions. Because life isn't punishing you. It's preparing you for strength, for growth, for clarity. Every loss, every failure, every heartbreak, they are all, in their own strange way, seeds. Seeds of wisdom, seeds of transformation. But only if you're willing to sit with the soil, to trust the process, to wait for growth. If this message touched something inside you, share it with someone who's hurting, someone who needs to hear that what they're going through means something, because it does. Turn your pain into power. Let's continue where we left off. You're standing in the storm, trying to hold steady. Maybe it's grief. Maybe it's failure. Maybe it's uncertainty so loud you can't hear your own thoughts. And here's the question. Can you turn this into fuel? Because that's what the Stoics believed. That pain, when understood, not avoided, becomes strength. Not instantly. Not without discomfort. But inevitably, if you stay the course. Hardship is a classroom, not a curse. Most people see challenges as interruptions. A failed relationship, a distraction from life, a rejection, proof they weren't good enough, a health scare, an unfair twist in the script. But the Stoic rewrites that story. They look at hardship and say, this isn't blocking the path. This is the path. That's not romanticizing suffering. That's recognizing its role in transformation. Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Simple words, heavy truth. Because we don't become wise when life goes smoothly. We become wise when we're broken open and still choose to rise. Suffering isn't punishment. It's precision training. Think of a blade. To be sharpened, it must endure friction. To be strong, it must be forged in fire. That's what hardship does to your soul. It reveals what you're made of. It strips away the false, the fragile, the distractions, and it leaves only what's real. When you face difficulty and keep your integrity intact. When you're tempted to give up, but continue one step further. When everything feels uncertain, but you stay calm anyway. That's character. And you can't fake it. You can't download it. You can only earn it through trial. That's why challenges are sacred. Not because they feel good, but because they make you good. Resilience is built, not born. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Think of that. You don't build muscle without resistance. You don't build patience without delays. You don't build courage without fear. The struggle you're facing is not evidence of failure. It's proof of growth. You're being stretched, shaped, prepared. Not to survive life, but to lead yourself through it. Examples are everywhere. Look at Thomas Edison. 1,000 failures trying to invent the light bulb. But he didn't call them failures. He called them 10,000 ways that won't work. That's Stoicism in action. Turning rejection into refinement. Turning setbacks into stepping stones. Or consider Epictetus, born a slave, crippled, ridiculed. He had every reason to collapse. Instead, he became one of the greatest philosophers in history. Why? Because he accepted his limits, but never his weakness. He wrote, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that reaction, that choice, is always yours. Challenges reveal what you truly control. The next time something hard hits, pause. Yes, can I control this outcome? Can I control this person's behavior? Can I control this moment? Usually, the answer is no. But then ask, can I control how I respond? Can I control my breath? Can I choose my next action? Always, the answer is yes. And that's where your power lies. In the micro, minus decisions. The pauses between reaction and response. The refusal to collapse under pressure. You're not here to control the world. You're here to master yourself in any world. Every fall is a setup for the rise. Think about your own life. Every time you faced hardship, you've changed. Sometimes slower than you wanted. Sometimes more painfully than you imagined. But always deeper. Wiser. More capable. You learned things no book could teach. You discovered strengths you never knew existed. You built a kind of courage that doesn't need to be loud. That's the power of adversity. It doesn't just teach you. It introduces you to you. Don't trust your transformation. Growth takes time. Sometimes the storm doesn't pass quickly. Sometimes the lesson isn't obvious. But the Stoics weren't in a hurry. They didn't look for shortcuts. They sat in the discomfort. They observed their mind. They walked forward, even when the path was foggy, because they trusted the process. They knew what feels like destruction now might be construction in disguise. The breaking might be the becoming, and the injury you're resisting might just be the beginning you need. So what do you do today? Breathe. Observe. Write. Move forward one honest step at a time. And remind yourself, the obstacle is not blocking your path. It is your path. Not because life is cruel, but because it's calling you higher. The control within how to respond when life doesn't go your way. Let's say you did everything right. You planned. You worked hard. You gave your heart to something. And still, it didn't work out. Maybe someone disappointed you. Maybe life took a turn you didn't expect. Maybe the outcome didn't match your effort. So what now? This is where most people crumble, or rage, or give up. But the Stoic doesn't. Because the Stoic doesn't live for outcomes. They live for alignment. The only true control we have is over our response. Epictetus wrote, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Let that sink in. You don't control what other people say, whether they approve of you. If the market crashes, if your plans fall apart, but you do control your breath, your posture, your internal dialogue, your next move. That's not a consolation prize. That's total freedom. Because while the world is busy reacting, chasing, panicking, blaming, you get to choose. To remain calm. To respond with clarity. To act with purpose. That's power. And it's always available if you're willing to claim it. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca said that. And he was right. How many times have you imagined worst minus case in scenarios that never happened? How many hours have you wasted in anxiety over a future that never arrived? The Stoic knows this trap. They see the mind's tendency to project fear onto the unknown. And they counter it not with denial but with presence. They return to its real. What can I do right now? What is actually happening, not what I'm afraid might happen? Am I adding unnecessary suffering with my thoughts? This practice doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It just disarms the mind's habit of panic. It brings you back to what matters. The action you can take now. Detach your peace from the outcome. Most people only feel good when things go their way. But that makes their peace fragile, completely dependent on circumstance. The Stoic takes another path. They find peace not in the result, but in their effort, their integrity, their alignment. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: if it is endurable, endure it. If not, stop complaining. Blunt? Yes, but wise. He.S. reminding us that complaining doesn't help. It doesn't fix the situation. It doesn't move you forward. It only prolongs the suffering. So instead of waiting for life to be fair or outcomes to be perfect, take action. Then detach. You showed up with clarity. That's enough. You acted with virtue. That's victory. The rest, not yours to carry. Responsibility is not blame. It's power. There's a difference between blaming yourself and taking ownership. Blame shames you. Ownership empowers you. When something goes wrong, the Stoic doesn't look outward first. They look inward. Was I clear in my intention? Did I prepare fully? Did I act with virtue? Is there anything I can improve? And then they move on. No self minus pity. No drama. No endless loops of what if. Just a lesson integrated. And a mind unburdened. True action is rooted in reason, not emotion. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It means not obeying them blindly. Feel anger? Don't suppress it. But don't act from it either. Feel fear? Notice it, but don't let it dictate your choices. The Stoic creates a gap between emotion and action. In that gap, they breathe. They reflect. They ask, what does wisdom require of me now? Then they act. Not because it feels good. Not because it's easy. But because it's right. This is what separates the reactive from the resilient. Reaction is impulsive. Resilience is intentional. And it's something you can train every single day. By practicing it in the small moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic. When a text goes unanswered. When plans get disrupted. These aren't annoyances. They're training grounds. Each moment you respond with calm is a rep. Each choice to pause instead of explode is a gain. And over time, you become someone different. Someone steady. Someone grounded. Someone trustworthy not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to trust your own presence. And that trust? That's the real reward. Not that life becomes easier, but that you become stronger. So when life doesn't go your way, pause. Don't resist reality. Don't spin in fear. Don't reach for control that doesn't exist. Instead, breathe. Respond with reason. Take aligned action. Let go. And in that process, you'll discover something rare. A kind of peace that doesn't depend on anything except your choice to return to yourself. Letting go the power of acceptance and inner peace. Sometimes, we fight reality. We argue with it. We try to bend it. We resist it like a storm we think we can stop. But here's the truth most of us learn the hard way. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms. And this is where Stoicism offers one of its most misunderstood but most liberating principles. Let go of what you can't control. Hold on only to your response. Not to give up, but to rise above. Acceptance is not weakness. It's clarity. Most people hear acceptance and think it means surrender, quitting. But accept isn't giving in. It's seeing things as they are, not as we wish they were. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgment about them." Think about that. It's not the event, it's the meaning we attach to it. A delay? It's just time moving slower. And insult? Just words until you choose to make them truth. A failed plan? Just a redirection, unless you call it a loss. So the Stoic asks, can I see this clearly? Am I resisting what's already real? Am I adding suffering by refusing to accept? And if the answer is yes, they let go. Not to escape the pain, but to free themselves from the unnecessary pain they create. Inner peace begins when the fight ends. Not the fight with the world. A fight with what is. When you stop trying to change things beyond your reach, you get your energy back. Your attention sharpens. Your calm returns. You realize most of your stress was never about what happened. It was about the story you told yourself about what should have happened. So drop the story and live the moment. From that place of unclenched presence, you'll make better decisions. You'll speak with more clarity. You'll feel lighter. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying what was never yours. Stillness is a choice, not a reward. We wait for calm. We say, you'll feel peace when. But Stoicism flips that script. It says, feel peace first and then watch how differently you then move. Peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you practice. In conversation. In conflict. In chaos. You return to your breath. You return to your principles. You return to your center. And from there you speak. You act. You decide. Helen Keller once said, we cannot do great things without perseverance. She didn't mean forcing things. She meant enduring with grace. She meant accepting her limits but refusing to let them define her. Blind, deaf, told she'd never learn. And yet she became a symbol of strength and clarity. Not because life was easy, but because she lived by Stoic values whether she called them that or not. She accepted what couldn't be changed, and changed everything else with her will. The peace you seek is not in the world, it's in your response to it. That's the shift. We keep trying to fix the external, the people, the circumstances, the outcomes. But Stoicism teaches start within. Because when your inner world is steady, the outer world can't knock you down. That doesn't mean you never feel. It means you feel without being ruled by the feeling. You stay open, but you don't lose your footing. That's power. And it's quiet. Your calm is your advantage. In business, in love, in leadership. People trust those who stay grounded under pressure. People follow those who speak without panic. People feel safe around those who don't react to everything. And it's not because those people are emotionless. It's because they practiced a new pattern. Pause. Breathe. Respond. This isn't natural. It's trained. Every morning you reflect, you train. Every moment you let go of control, you train. Every breath you choose over a reaction, you train. Until one day, the storm hits and you don't flinch. Not because you're numb, but because you're rooted. Letting go creates space for what matters. When you release control over what isn't yours, you gain control over what is. Your thoughts, your focus, your attitude, your values. That's where transformation begins. That's where peace lies. And that's where you rediscover your power, not in trying to shape the world, but in shaping yourself to meet it calmly, clearly, and with courage. Peace in the storm, how to stay grounded when everything is falling apart. There's a kind of moment we all face. When nothing goes as planned. When the job is lost, the relationship ends, the diagnosis arrives. When you're in the middle of the chaos and silence just feels loud. And it's there, in the eye of the storm, that Stoicism offers its most sacred gift. Unshakable inner peace. Not because the storm is small, but because you've learned how to stand still inside it. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. It's the presence of clarity. The world doesn't need to calm down for you to feel calm. The people around you don't need to behave for you to find your center. Life doesn't need to align perfectly for you to walk with dignity. That's the mistake most of us make. We wait for things to change out there before we feel okay in here. But what if that's backwards? What if peace starts first inside? And then, no matter what the world throws at you, your center holds. You don't eliminate emotion. You guide it. Stoicism doesn't tell you to be a robot. It doesn't say don't feel sadness or never get angry. What it says is. Don't let those emotions run the show. Feel them. Acknowledge them. And decide what's the wise response here. Because wisdom always begins with space. A pause. A breath. A moment to observe the storm without becoming the storm. In the most difficult moments, the mind must lead. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain, but it means you won't be enslaved by it. When fear rises, you breathe deeper. When shame whispers, you remember your values. When confusion clouds your vision, you ask, what can I do with what I have? That's how a Stoic thinks, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. Especially when the world feels like it's falling apart. Return to the present. That's where peace lies. The past? It's already written. The future? It hasn't arrived yet. But your mind wants to live in both. Regret, worry, overthinking. And all of it pulls you away from the one place where power exists right now. Stoicism trains you to come back. Back to this breath. This step. This decision. Because that's where life is actually happening, not in your imagination, but in your awareness. And when you live here, in the present, you stop drowning in what if sun starts swimming in what now. Helen Keller lived in silence and darkness, but not in despair. She couldn't see the world. She couldn't hear it. But she knew one thing: she could shape how she showed up inside it. And so she chose strength. She chose stillness. She chose clarity not as a miracle, but as a practice. Her message was simple. We cannot do great things without perseverance. And what is perseverance, really? It's peace in motion. Calm that refuses to give up. Faith that stays grounded, even when everything else is shaking. Ask better questions in the middle of pain. When life gets hard, the wrong questions flood the mind. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? When will it get better? But the Stoic asks different questions. What can I learn here? What virtue is being called forward in me? How can I respond with courage today? Those questions don't always bring instant relief, but they bring direction. They give your mind something better to hold on to than blame. They create space for growth even in grief. No event can destroy your peace unless you give it permission. People may betray you. Plans may fail. Your health may falter. But none of that can touch your inner fortress unless you open the gate and let chaos in. The Stoic keeps that gate guard, not out of fear, but out of deep respect for what matters most. A steady mind, a clear heart, a life lived from principle, not pressure. Keep your dignity, even when things get dark. There will be days when nothing makes sense. Days when emotion tries to take the wheel. But remember this. You don't owe the world a perfect response. You owe yourself an honest one. One aligned with your values. One rooted in reason. One that makes you proud even if no one else understands. Because dignity isn't for show. It's for you. For that moment when you look in the mirror and say, I didn't lose myself, even when everything else felt lost. You were made for this moment. Not because you're invincible, but because you've been practicing. Every morning of reflection, every breath of stillness, every act of letting go. It's all lead here. So now, when the world feels heavy, you don't need to escape it. You meet it. Calmly. Quietly. Powerfully. Because you've learned it. Peace is not the reward at the end of the journey. It's the way you travel through every step. From chaos to clarity, turning trials into tools. You didn't ask for the struggle. You didn't plan for the setback. You didn't expect the silence, the loss, the twist in your story. But here it is. So the only question left is, what will you do with it? That's the Stoic question. Not how do I escape this, but how do I use this? Because every challenge, every failure, betrayal, delay, disappointment isn't just pain. It's potential. If you know how to look at it, everything you go through can make you stronger if you cooperate with it. Let's be clear. Stoicism doesn't say pain is good. It says pain is useful. There's a difference. You're not supposed to enjoy heartbreak, loss, injustice. But you are invited to learn from them. To ask what part of me is being asked to grow. Patience? Humility? Courage? Forgiveness? These virtues aren't built in ease. They're revealed in hardship. And when the Stoics seize difficulty, they don't just endure it. They partner with it. They let it refine them, not define them. What breaks others can build you. The same storm that sinks one ship can strengthen another. It all depends on the captain. Some people collapse under pressure. Others, those who train their mind, their breath, their focus, get clearer, calmer, more resolved. Not because they enjoy pain, but because they've stopped running from it. They know every challenge is a sharpening stone, and they let it hone them, quietly, steadily, intentionally. Even chaos has a purpose if you stay awake. Think about a forest. Sometimes it burns. And at first, all you see is destruction. But from that ash, something powerful happens: renewal. New roots take hold. Dead weight disappears. Light reaches the soil again. This isn't just nature, it's you. You're not meant to stay unchanged. You're meant to grow, evolve, be forged. So, if your life feels like it's burning down, look again. This may be the fire that clears your next path. Not because you wanted it, but because you're ready. There is wisdom hiding inside your hardest days. But you have to stop numbing. Stop distracting. Stop pretending it's not happening. Sit with it. Write it down. Ask, what truth is this moment offering me? And listen not just with your mind, but with your soul. The answers might not be loud, but they'll be real. Seneca taught fortune is not your enemy, your mind is. We blame the world, the timing, the people, but often the true chaos is inside. And that's good news. Because if the storm is inside, you can calm it. You can reframe it. You can reclaim your power. This is the core of Stoicism. You don't control what happens, but you control how you interpret what happens. And that interpretation becomes a reality. Your story, your strength. Reframe or remain. This is your choice now. Remain in resistance? You suffer twice. You suffer the event in the story you tell yourself about the event. But if you reframe, you release yourself. You suffer once, and even then it's clean pain. Not shame, not spiraling, just life asking something of you, and you answering. Let life break your illusions, not your integrity. You will be broken, in small and large ways. That's the deal. But let it break your ego, not your values. Let it break your patterns, not your peace. Let it break your false identity, not your soul. The Stoics knew, only what is false in you can be destroyed by pressure. What's real, it only gets stronger. Stop asking life to be easy. Ask for the strength to meet it well. Comfort isn't the goal. Character is. And every morning you wake up and return to your breath, your journal, your inner compass. You are choosing character. You are choosing to meet life with open eyes, with clarity, with calm. And in doing so, you're turning chaos into clarity, obstacles into instruction, pain into peace. That's not magic. It's mastery. The quiet kind. The kind you carry with you no matter what happens next. The wisdom of surrender, aligning with reality, not fighting it. You've tried everything. You've pushed, fought, resisted. You've done the work, said the affirmations, visualized the outcome, and still it didn't unfold the way you wanted. So what now? This is the moment where many people collapse. They call it failure. They call it unfair. But the Stoic calls it something else. Life. Because at some point, every wise person learns. You can do your best and still not get what you hoped for. But that doesn't mean it was for nothing. It means you're being invited to surrender, not as defeat, but as wisdom. Surrender is not giving up. It's giving over to something deeper. We fight reality because we believe we know better. That this outcome shouldn't have happened. That this person should have stayed. That this job should have been ours. But the Stoic stops and asks, how do I know this isn't what I need? How do I know this moment, however painful, isn't the very thing that sharpens my soul? Marcus Aurelius, facing constant war, betrayal, and personal loss, wrote, accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs. He wasn't passive. He was aligned. He understood reality is not here to match your preferences. It's here to meet your potential. Control is illusion. Alignment is power. You can't control the people. You can't control the traffic. You can't control the twists in your path. But you can align your mind with the truth of the moment. And when you do, suffering dissolves. Not because the pain disappears, but because the resistance disappears. You stop saying this shouldn't be happening. And you start asking, since this is happening, who will I be in response? That's real power. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. That job loss? Maybe it's not the end of your career. Maybe it's the beginning of your calling. That breakup? Maybe it's not heartbreak. It's the space your soul needed to grow. That failure? Maybe it's not a dead end, it's a divine detour. Seneca said, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Your job isn't to avoid friction. It's too easy to let it polish you, clarify you, prepare you. So when the next chapter begins, you're ready. Because you surrendered your plan. and found your purpose. Let go of the outcome. Double down on the intention. You're not responsible for the harvest. You're irresponsible for planting the seeds, for watering them, showing up, speaking truth, leading with principle. What grows from that? Out of your hands. And that's a relief. Because when you release the outcome, you also release anxiety. You stop measuring your worth by what you can control. And you start living in alignment with what you can. Your effort, your clarity, your calm, your integrity. These are yours. Forever. Let everything else move as it must. Your pain will not go to waste if you let it become a teacher. Sit with it. Write about it. Ask, what did this reveal about me? What part of me is being asked to grow? What can I now see that I was blind to before? Pain is the great revealer. It strips away what doesn't matter. It shows you it's real. But only if you stop distracting yourself long enough to listen. So be still. Let it speak. Not forever. Just long enough to receive its wisdom. You are already becoming. You don't need to fix your life. You need to honor its unfolding. The Stoic don't force transformation. They participate in it. Through observation. Through alignment. Through letting go. And it's this surrender, not inaction, but intelligent response that builds a life of peace. Because you realize, nothing was ever truly yours to control anyway. Only your attention, your action, your attitude. So now, you return to those. Gently, steadily, without drama. And suddenly, the chaos becomes clear. Not because it's gone, but because you stopped making it your enemy. You made it your teacher. Rebuilding from within, becoming stronger after the fall. So the worst has happened. You lost what mattered. You were betrayed. You failed publicly. You broke down privately. It all fell apart. Then you survived. Now what? This is where most people try to bounce back. To pretend. To power through. To act like they're okay before they are. But the Stoic doesn't bounce. The Stoic rebuilds slowly, deliberately, from the inside out. Because what broke you can also build you. Don't trust the healing. Honor the becoming. There is a kind of strength that only lies on the other side of silence. And you can access it by skipping pain. You access it by sitting with pain. Facing it. Letting it cleanse what no longer serves you. Marcus Aurelius said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. This you have the power to revoke at any moment. That moment comes when you stop rushing to feel better and start allowing yourself to feel deeper. Because in the depth, you rediscover your roots. Let your cracks become your character. You don't need to fix the broken parts. You need to own them. The places where you cracked, that's where the light got in. The disappointments, they taught you discernment. The rejections, they rooted you to something real. The mistakes, they carved humility into your pride. So don't cover the scars. Cultivate them. They're not blemishes. They're proof that you've lived, that you've lost, that you've learned, that you didn't run from life, you let it shape you. Rebuild with virtue, not vengeance. Some people recover from pain by trying to prove something. They chase success to silence doubt. They crave attention to mask insecurity. They hustle to cover shame. But the Stoic rebuilds differently. They don't ask, how can I impress them? They ask, how can I live better? With more courage, more clarity, more compassion, more truth. Because what matters now isn't the image, it's the integrity. And that rebuild, it lasts. Return to simplicity. After loss, don't rush to fill the space. Sit in it. Let the emptiness clear the clutter mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Ask, what actually matters now? What no longer fits the person in becoming? What can I let go of for good? This is the gift hidden in collapse. It's a reset. Not just of goals, but of identity. You get to begin again this time with awareness. Train your character like a muscle. You are not powerless now. In fact, you've never been more powerful. Why? Because you've been tested and are still here. Now is the time to train. Your patience in the face of slow growth. Your honesty when shame tries to hide. Your consistency when motivation disappears. Your self-minus respect even when no one's watching. Every day, you lift a little more. Emotionally, morally, mentally, and slowly, the weight becomes your strength. You stop asking, when will I be healed? And you start realizing, I am healing every time I choose virtue over reaction. Let small acts restore your power. You don't need to change your whole life today. Just make your bed. Go for a walk. Write one sentence that's honest. Speak one truth, kindly. Drink water. Breathe deeper. Light a candle. Every small act of care is an act of rebellion against despair. Every time you move with intention, you reclaim a piece of yourself. That's what rebuilding looks like. Not dramatic. Not flashy. Just deeply real. Stay consistent even when the fire fades. At first, pain feels like fuel. You want to rise. Prove. Fix. But that fire fades. And in its place, you'll need rhythm. This is where Stoicism shines. Because it doesn't rely on emotion. It relies on principle. So even when the fire is low, you show up. To your breath, your journal, your morning walk. You keep moving not because you feel strong, but because you are becoming strong. And that is the real comeback. Not fame, not revenge, not applause, but a quiet soul, a steady mind, a life you respect because you rebuilt it with integrity. So don't rush, don't chase, just return to yourself again and again, brick by brick, breath by breath. This is how you become unshakable. The freedom of letting go, living without attachment, leading with grace. You want peace? You want clarity, calm, and confidence? Then you must be willing to let go. Not just of the past, but of the illusion of control, of the need for certainty, of the belief that happiness lies in outcomes. Because the Stoic doesn't chase freedom in the world. They find it inside through detachment. Freedom begins when you stop needing things to be a certain way. Most of your stress comes from expectations. You expected them to stay. You expected it to work. You expected life to go your way. But Stoicism strips that illusion gently and then hands you something far more powerful. Choice. Your power isn't in getting what you want. It's in choosing how to respond when you don't. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And bravery doesn't mean charging into war. It means walking through life without clinging. It means saying, even if this falls apart, I will still stand. That's freedom. You don't own anything, not really. Not your job. Not your partner. Not even your health. Everything is borrowed. Everything is impermanent. This isn't meant to make you feel fear, it's meant to give you clarity. Because once you see that everything is on loan, you stop taking it for granted. You stop gripping so tightly. You start cherishing, appreciating, releasing. That's the art of Stoic detachment. Love deeply. Hold loosely. Engage with life fully, but let go when it's time. Not with resentment. With grace. You can care without clinging. Attachment says, I need this to be happy. Love says, even if this goes away, I will still live with an open heart. One makes you desperate. The other makes you strong. Because when you attach your identity to things you can't control, people, status, outcomes, you give away your power. But when you detach, you come home to yourself. You remember, I am whole already. Not because of what I have, but because of who I choose to be. Let go not to have nothing, but to hold everything better. Imagine holding water. If you grip too tight, it slips through your fingers. But if you cup your hands gently, you can hold more than you thought. That's detachment. Not coldness. Not indifference. Just a shift in posture. from grasping to receiving, from owning to appreciating, from fearing loss to trusting life. When you let go, you make room. Room for peace, for flow, for unexpected joy. Let go of the grudge, and you make room for connection. Let go of control, and you make room for curiosity. Let go of the timeline, and you make room for divine timing. Detachment isn't the absence of care, it's the presence of trust. A deep, quiet trust in something bigger than your plans. Stop chasing. Start aligning. You've been taught to run toward the goal. The number. The relationship. The version of success they told you meant you made it. But what if you stopped? What if you stood still and asked, does this path align with who I truly am? That's Stoic detachment in action. Not passive. Just precise. You stop wasting energy chasing things that weren't ever yours. And you start walking calmly, wisely toward what matters. Let others go too. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will disappoint you. Some will leave by choice or by circumstance. Don't cling. Don't chase. Wish them well. And continue. Because the Stoic doesn't need everyone to stay. They just need to stay true to themselves. When nothing is yours, everything becomes sacred. Every breath, every sunrise, every quiet cup of tea. You stop looking for magic, and you start seeing it everywhere. You stop waiting to arrive, and you start realizing you are already home. That's the power of letting go. Not losing, but living more fully. Because now, your peace is no longer fragile. It's not tied to people behaving or plans unfolding. It's anchored in something stronger. Your ability to stay calm, present, and principled no matter what. Let go not to escape the world, but to meet it as it is, with open hands and an open heart. Living with purpose, choosing virtue over validation. So much of our energy is spent trying to be seen. We post, we prove, we perform. But the Stoic doesn't live to be noticed. They live to be aligned. Because they know true purpose doesn't need an audience. It needs courage. And you find that courage when you stop asking, how do I look? And start asking, am I living by my values? Virtue is the only success you control. Everything else, money, status, praise, is outside of your hands. But virtue? That's yours. Every day, in every situation, you get to choose. Will I speak truth or convenience? Will I act with courage or comfort? Will I lead with love or fear? And in those small decisions, character is built. Not loudly, not instantly, but consistently. Seneca wrote, we should not care about the opinion of the crowd. It is enough if we live in a way that earns our own respect. That's the Stoic compass. Not popularity. Self minus respect. Live so that your soul can look you in the mirror and say, I see you and am proud. Validation fades. Integrity compounds. The applause you get today, it'll vanish tomorrow. The promotion, someone else will earn it next year. The compliments, they come and go. But the way you show up, that builds something permanent. You will always get recognition, but you will always carry the consequences of your choices. So choose virtue, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Choose it when no one's watching. Choose it when no one claps. Because the Stoic knows, you don't need noise when your actions already speak. Stop proving. Start practicing. You don't need to debate online to defend your beliefs. You don't need to justify every boundary you set. You don't need to announce your healing. Just live it. When your life becomes your proof, you don't need to explain. People will feel it. In your tone, your calm, your quiet consistency. They may not say it, but they'll think. There's something steady about this person. Something clear. And that steadiness, it came from within. Purpose doesn't shout. It guides. Most people chase passion, but passion fades. Stoics don't chase passion, they build purpose. Not the dramatic kind, the daily kind. They find purpose in small, repeatable actions. Waking up early to reflect. Listening fully in a conversation. Speaking truth when it's inconvenient. Letting go when it hurts. Purpose isn't always a career or mission. Sometimes, it's just the decision to live with principle again and again. Choose your North Star and walk toward it. Maybe it's honesty. Maybe it's discipline. Maybe it's kindness, no matter how others act. Whatever it is, let it guide your choices. Not in perfection, in intention. You'll stumble. You'll forget. You'll react. But then you remember. You return. And every return is a vote for the person you're becoming. Don't be impressive. Be real. In a world obsessed with branding, you get to be a human. Messy. Evolving. Grounded. You don't need to curate your image. You need to clean your inner world. You need to wake up and ask, what matters most today? What do I stand for? What will I not compromise? And then walk that path. Quietly. Boldly. Without needing applause. Because that's what the Stoic does. Not for the world. For the soul. Purpose is not found. It's practiced. You don't need to go looking for it in faraway places. It's right here. In your response to adversity. In your treatment of others. In your willingness to return to truth when it would be easier not to. So stop searching. Start choosing. Choose virtue over validation. Principle over popularity. Depth over decoration. And your purpose will reveal itself not as something you chase, but as something you've been becoming all along. Strength in stillness, mastering yourself in a noisy world. The world is loud. Everyone is rushing, posting, arguing, performing. The pressure to stay relevant, stay loud, stay visible, it's constant. But what if you don't need to keep up? What if your greatest strength is stillness? What if mastery isn't about doing more, but doing less with clarity? That's where the Stoic thrives. Not in the noise, but in the quiet beneath it. Stillness is not emptiness. It's power without panic. In a storm, the strongest part of the sea is not the waves, it's the calm underneath. That's your goal, not to stop the waves of life, but to anchor deeper than them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. He led Rome through war and plague, and yet every morning he returned to stillness, to breath, to thought, because he knew if he lost himself, the empire would too. The same is true for you. Your world needs your calm more than your commentary, your steadiness more than your speed. Slow is smooth. Smooth is strong. You're not here to react to everything. You're here to respond to what matters. That requires discipline. To ignore what's urgent but meaningless. To walk away from arguments that go nowhere. To pause before posting. To breathe before speaking. The Stoic doesn't rush not because they're lazy, but because they're precise. They choose their energy like a craftsman chooses his tools. Carefully, deliberately, with intention. Attention is your most precious currency. Every ad, every headline, every ping is bidding for your mind. But you choose who wins. You choose what you absorb. Because what you give attention to, you give life to. So guard it. Start your mornings without your phone. Read wisdom before scrolling distraction. Reflect before reacting. This isn't about rules. It's about rhythm. It's about remembering that your inner world shapes your outer one. And your attention is the architect. You don't need more information. You need deeper reflection. The Stoics didn't have podcasts or infinite scroll. They had silence. And they used it to ask, what am I avoiding? What is this discomfort trying to teach me? Where am I acting from ego, not virtue? That kind of questioning, it builds depth. And in a shallow world, depth is rare. It makes you magnetic not by volume, but by presence. Stillness gives birth to clarity. When you stop reacting to every headline, you see patterns. When you stop chasing every trend, you hear your own values again. When you slow your breath, your thoughts slow too. And suddenly, you can think. Really think. Not as a reaction, but as a response to truth. Lead yourself first, others will follow. People crave stability. They're drawn to those who know who they are. Not those who talk the loudest, but those who act the clearest. You become that by mastering stillness. You don't need a platform. Just a practice. A journal. A walk in silence. 10 deep breaths before the meeting. These aren't rituals for monks. They're disciplines for warriors. Inner warriors. The kind who walk into chaos and bring calm with them. Stillness isn't inactivity. It's alignment. You're not doing nothing when you sit in silence. You're realigning. You're remembering what matters. You're checking in with your values before life pressures you to forget them. And from that place you move. With precision. With conviction. With grace. Don't get dragged by the current. Become the anchor. The world will try to pull you into trends, into outrage, into overreaction. But you have a choice. To stand still. To listen before speaking. To think before acting. To choose peace over panic. That choice? That's power. Not the kind that dominates others. The kind that masters the self. And that, in the end, is the most stoic power of all. The stoic life, walking forward with calm, courage, and clarity. You've come far. Not just in this message, but in life. Through pain, change, uncertainty, loss, and yet you're still here. Still breathing. Still learning. Still becoming. That alone is reason to pause and give yourself credit. Because the Stoic doesn't only look forward. They stop long enough to reflect, to integrate, to ask, am I walking toward the life I truly want to live? And if the answer is unclear, they don't panic. They realign. They begin again. With one breath. One action. One moment of honesty. The Stoic life is not about perfection. It's about practice. You won't always say the right thing. You won't always stay calm. You won't always catch your reaction in time. But you will notice. You will reflect. You will learn. That's what separates the Stoic from the restless crowd. Not their stillness, but their willingness to return to it. Again and again. A good life is built one morning at a time. You don't need a 10-year plan. You need clarity today. Am I aligned with what matters? Am I acting from virtue or emotion? Am I showing up with intention? If the answer is yes, you're on the path. If it's no, you're human. And that's okay. Just return. Return to breath. To simplicity. To the next right thing. Let your days be simple and sharp. Don't try to do everything. Do the few things that matter well. Wake early. Reflect deeply. Act with integrity. Let go of what you can't control. Give more than you take. These aren't productivity hacks. They're principles. And when you live by principle, you sleep with peace. Remember, everything is borrowed. Your time, your health, your loved ones, your opportunities. None of it is guaranteed. None of it is permanent. That's not morbid. That's clarity. And from that clarity comes gratitude. Not the kind you post, the kind you feel. When you drink water with awareness, when you watch sunlight move across the floor, when you sit with someone and actually listen, that's the Stoic life. Fully present, quietly strong, deeply grateful. Be the calm in some own storm. People won't remember every word you say, but they'll remember how they felt in your presence. So give them steadiness, not performance. Give them space, not pressure. Give them the example of someone who lives from values even when life gets messy. That's rare. That's powerful. And it doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be lived. The Stoic doesn't hope for an easy life. They prepare for a meaningful one. They don't chase happiness. They cultivate peace. They don't fear death. They use it as a compass for living fully. And when the end comes, as it will, they don't panic. They smile. They whisper, I live by my values. I love without clinging. I let go with grace. That's enough. That's everything. Now you walk forward. Not to impress. Not to compete. Not to prove. But to live on purpose. With calm. With courage. With clarity. That's the Stoic way. And it's available to you every single day. If this message stayed with you, share it. With a friend. With someone hurting. With anyone who needs a moment of stillness in a noisy world. And if you haven't yet subscribed for more truths that cut through the noise and help you live with strength and peace, thank you for walking this journey with me. Now go live it quietly, boldly, stoically. We are currently giving away a free ebook, 12 Stoic lessons that will change your life. To receive your gift, simply follow the channel and leave a comment that says, I have followed, or I would like to receive the gift. We will reply with the download link directly below your comment.